Jacobs. I'm the President and Chief Science Officer of Zhittya Genesis Medicine. We are a biotechnology company based in Las Vegas. We're developing a number of drugs through the FDA clinical trial process. Because of time limitations today, I'll be just talking about two applications, drugs to reverse coronary heart disease and drugs to reverse Parkinson's disease. Our drugs stimulate the growth of new blood vessels. This is a process called angiogenesis. Actually, over 75 human diseases are a result of impaired blood perfusion. I'll be talking about coronary artery disease first, and then move on to Parkinson's disease, which is a neurodegenerative disease. Angiogenesis is a process we all use all the time. It's a natural bodily process. Here's an example. We use angiogenesis to heal our cuts and scrapes. The skateboarder is fallen off his skateboard, scraped his elbow. And let's see how angiogenesis can heal that wound. Okay, let's look at that circle there. Think about that as a scab. We're looking underneath the scab and see all those small, tiny blood vessels shown right here. Okay, that's angiogenesis in action. Those blood vessels bring in blood to heal the skin, provide new nerves, sweat glands, everything you need to regenerate skin. And that whole process is being stimulated by the drug that we are developing now. That drug is human FGF1. Again, it's a natural product in our bodies. I actually was involved in purifying this protein when I was a graduate student a number of years ago. And it's probably the most potent stimulator of angiogenesis in our body. Briefly, let's just look at what angiogenesis is. You can see at the top there, a small ball. This is FGF1 binding to its receptor on a blood vessel cell. So that's like a key going into a lock. It stimulates an explosion of activity, and you form small tubes and then capillaries. And this is a whole process of stimulating new blood vessel growth in someone's damaged tissues. I'll be giving two examples. Let me start with coronary artery disease. Again, we have FDA clinical trial evidence. We've injected this drug directly into the heart, people with severe coronary artery disease, and we can grow new blood vessels. We look at their hearts 3 months after we've done the injections. I actually supervised this trial, so I know the results very well. Let me show you, we have 3 separate studies, 2 in Germany, 1 in the US that I supervised, and actually ABC News went to one of our clinical trial sites at the University of Cincinnati, interviewed some of the patients, interviewed the cardiologist there, Dr. Lynn Wagner. And I'll show you this clip now. I want you to look at her when she points. She's going to be pointing to an angiogram where you can actually see new blood vessels growing in the patient's heart.
But since receiving an experimental treatment for his blocked arteries, his pain is gone.
I really feel great.
Duke was one of the first heart patients in the country to be treated with a protein actually capable of growing brand new arteries. The genetically engineered protein is injected directly into the heart. Within days, a network of new vessels begins to grow around the blockage, increasing the blood supply. Dr. Lynn Wagner showed us the changes in one patient's heart.
We see a small, narrow main artery and not very many secondary and tertiary arteries. This is after the treatment. What we're now seeing is new blood vessels growing here off the end of this artery.
And the patients themselves?
Symptomatically, they're improved within a couple of weeks of the treatment.
Just ask Constance Donnelly.
Oh, I feel wonderful. I've never felt so good in the last 5 years.
But doctors already see potential in other cases where the blood supply needs a boost, such as strokes and diabetes.
Just to make a note, that woman we saw there, Constance Donnelly, she came into the trial as a cardiac cripple. She was in a wheelchair, and that's her 3 months after she was treated. Okay, let me talk now briefly about Parkinson's disease. This is a neurodegenerative disease in the brain. Those 2 little black areas right here These are the dopamine producing cells. They're deep within our brains. They're the ones that get affected in Parkinson's. We think a lack of blood supply to that region of the brain chokes off those neurons. They become dysfunctional, and people develop all the characteristic symptoms of Parkinson's, including jerking, and gait disturbances. We can test FGF1, the drug we're developing, in the gold standard, which is a monkey model of Parkinson's. You can give these monkeys Parkinson's and then test drugs in them, and this is generally done before drugs go into the clinic. Let me show you the results. We give this toxin in the very beginning here, and then over a period of 9 months, this is motor skills. So this is normal motor skills up here, abnormal motor skills. Right here, these monkeys are showing all the classical symptoms of Parkinson's disease. One group of monkeys we treat with our drug, FGF1. You see we can halt the progression and actually improve their motor skills quite significantly over the control group, which is shown here. Very importantly, we look in the brains of these monkeys to see if we're regenerating dopamine-producing cells, the root cause of this disease. And in fact, we are. You can see these brown, newly regenerated dopamine cells stimulated by our drug. Really nothing in the untreated animals. One other root cause of Parkinson's disease in both people and these primates is plaques. This is the same as beta amyloid plaques in Alzheimer's. These plaques are toxic to these monkeys and to people. And you can see here in the treated animals, we're flushing away this toxic tangle proteins. Again, a root cause of the disease, and we are reversing that. So we're very excited about taking this into the clinic. We have applications into the US FDA. We've been approved to go in Mexico, and we will be testing 3 different doses of this drug in our first clinical trial. I don't have time to talk about our other drugs for other medical indications. We have a website, zgm.care. It'll be listed at the end of this talk. Go there and you can learn about all of the medical indications for which we're developing our drug, including other brain disorders. So now I'd like to introduce our CEO, Dan Montano, who will discuss the business aspects of our operations and investment opportunities.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. I'm going to be talking about our business and the investment opportunity. Let me go to the next slide. This is the introduction to the pre-IPO information. It is important that you understand this is not an offer of investment. This is a private placement which can only be made available to those who financially qualify. Those people who can demonstrate financial suitability for the private placement on the pre-IPO shares will be forwarded additional information for consideration of the investment. Next slide. We have Zhittya is a drug manufacturer. We have regional marketing companies which sell our drugs, market our drugs, and we share the profits. We get a royalty from them selling our drugs. So we believe these regional marketing companies in different territories of the world have a low risk, high reward possibility because they split with us only to share the profits. The marketing companies, the largest one is the one who covers the United States and Canada. That is Wound Healing Biopharmaceutical. The second is Europe. That is Regenerative Medicine of Europe. Of the remaining major markets, that's populations of over 600 million, we have the Middle East, North Africa, Latin America, Southeast Asia, China, India, subcontinent. Now we're doing the pre-IPO placement has been completed for the United States and Canada. It's been completed for Europe. Both are getting ready to go public. The next one, we were working on the pre-IPO placement for the Middle East, North Africa, an area of over 600 million people with some of the wealthiest nations in the world like Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and obviously some of the poorest nations on the world like Yemen. Next slide. The IPO for Regenerative Medicine of North Africa, Armina, as I refer to it, is to be 1 million shares at $10 per share, the IPO. The IPO has been agreed to be conducted by a successful securities firm that's 25 years old. They've done over $50 billion worth of IPOs. They have an excellent track record. The shares after the IPO will be listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So $10 per share is what we expect the IPO for Armina to be, and that will take place in about 6 months. Next slide, please. The pre-IPO placement for regenerative medicine Armina. Let me explain the capitalization. The founding shareholders have 1 million shares. No options, no warrants, nothing funny. The pre-IPO investors, the one that we're working on now, will be 1 million shares at $2. After this pre-IPO placement is concluded, there will be 2 million shares outstanding. 2 million shares at $2 is a market capitalization of $4 million. When the shares list on the New York Stock Exchange at $10 a share at the conclusion of the IPO, there'll be another 1 million shares outstanding. That's a total of 3 million shares at $10. That is a market capitalization of $30 million after the IPO. The Wall Street Journal says the average biotech market company with no human data is 535 million with no drugs approved. And please understand, for those people who qualified, we will send the paper and the documentation to support every statement we make. So 535 million is larger than 30 million. Acadia Pharmaceutical, a company that has worked on a Parkinson's modifying symptoms, not disease, the symptoms, before their drug was approved, had a market cap of $3.8 billion. The opportunity for the pre-IPO placement is at $2 a share. I think most people would agree that if the pre-IPO placement is $2 and the IPO takes place at $10, that's a good deal. And so obviously we will inform people interested who the underwriter is and why we're confident they can deliver at $10. We've already had actually 650,000 shares taken. We still have 350,000 shares open. If you're interested, next slide. Reasons I think is a good investment opportunity. 16 of the 19 drugs we're working on meet an unmet medical need. The drugs are disease modifying agents. That means they treat or cure the disease. They don't just treat the symptoms. And I believe they have a high probability of obtaining the US FDA breakthrough designation. And I think more importantly, they're big opportunities. So in the case of diabetic foot ulcers, I believe in the marketplace of the Middle East, North Africa, the opportunity is 2 to 6 billion a year, venous ulcers 2 to 6 billion, heart 30 to 60 billion, peripheral artery disease 10 to 15 billion, brain 400 million to 40 billion. These are huge numbers that the drug can address that. In the next slide, this is reasons that I believe the investment is justified. Each medical indication should have marketplace exclusivity. This means that in the United States and Europe, we believe we'll have a 10 to 12 year monopoly, and therefore that should spill over to all the other territories like the Middle East, North Africa. We have a targeted low treatment costs. So we take what is the present cost of standard of care, and if the present standard of cost of care is 10,000, our target price is 20% of that. So we look to offer the governments, the insurance companies, a savings of 80% by using our drugs, which will be a better cure than the present standard of care. The marketing company will receive 100% of the sizzle. So if Dr. Jacobs and his team are able to have positive data on Parkinson's, that will be a product or something owned by Armina. They can tell all their friends, they can tell the stock market, the world. And I believe that there's a high affinity of public support for each indication. People with diabetes want the diabetic foot ulcers treated. People with Parkinson's want the Parkinson's. So we have huge amounts of support. We have 40, 50,000 people that are already registered with us for our investments. Next slide. I want to talk about the FDA breakthrough therapy because your objective is, does the stock go up after the $10 IPO price? And I think it will go up dramatically. And I'm going to give 2 quick examples. Next slide. The FDA breakthrough designation for Intercept Pharmaceutical. On January 15th, this company had no FDA-approved drug. On January 30th, 2015, their share price was $167 a share. The only thing that happened that day is the FDA granted them breakthrough designation. And at the end of the day, the price had risen 17% and closed at $201 a share for an increase in market capitalization of $660 million. Now, the reason I use this example is because The FDA breakthrough designation can increase the value of a biotech company between 50 million, 100 million, $1 billion. And we believe of our 19 indication, we have 16 shots at breakthrough designation. Next slide. So if you're interested in participating in clinical trials, please visit our website, zgm.care. I repeat, that's Z like Zhittya, G like Genesis, M like medicine.care. If you want to learn more about the investment opportunity, please email me directly. That's dan333@aol.com. I want to also tell you that if you're interested in getting more information on the medicines and whatever, please email me. We have white papers on most everything. We look forward to talking to you. I think we now go to questions and answers. Gilbert?
Thank you, Dan. I'd like to start off a couple of questions here from the Chinese feed here, Susie Yu. Understanding what you're developing have other indications or applications. Why is using Parkinson's disease as the beginnings, as a start?
I can answer that. This is Jack. We have the really nice animal data we had in the monkey model that we can reverse Parkinson's disease in a primate. And humans are primates, so we have the most advanced data in that brain disorder.
Jack, I'd also like to answer that. The Parkinson's community in the United States is 1 million people. Worldwide, it's 10 million. There's 3.5 million in China that have Parkinson's disease. Those people are passionate for any kind of treatment that can end their miserable existence. So every time a company comes out with announcements, their stocks go up dramatically. So Acadia Pharmaceutical being worth $3.8 billion, if that were to apply to Armina, that would be $300 a share. So Jack's right. We have a great deal of excellent data, but from a stock market point of view, it's something that is really hot.
Okay, good. The next question coming from Brian Zai here said, detail a bit about your timeline of your IPO. You mentioned NYSE. Do you actually mean NYSE American, sort of the smaller of the NYSE exchange?
Okay, I'll answer that. We're going to go on the New York Stock Exchange because I'm 72 years old, and I started working on the floor of the Los Angeles Stock Exchange in 1968 when the New York Stock Exchange was the center of the world. Each of these marketing companies around the world, we want to also have them duly listed in Hong Kong, as an example, at tremendous values to the regenerative medicine of China. Once you're listed on the New York Stock Exchange, any one of the platforms they have, whether it's whatever, small cap or whatever, you automatically qualify for listing on those other exchanges. So the Middle East company can list on Dubai and therefore become local biotech company. The same with China, the same with Singapore, the same with Mexico. And so with the New York Stock Exchange, you automatically have the ability to dual list, which opens up thousands and millions of new investors. And that's why we want to go that way.
Okay, good. And the final question is from Jake D here. He's asking, so for the IPO listing, the funds that you're being raised, is it all going to be, majority going to be in the phase 1 trial for the Parkinson's disease?
No. So the money that the marketing company is going to raise, none of it goes towards drug development. Zhittya pays for all the drug development. We get a royalty on the successful sale of those drugs, and we get a very nice, sweet royalty. The marketing companies, their job is to go out and tell the story, market the story, identify people for the clinical trials, and sing the song. Now, I personally believe that the IPO is dramatically undervalued. I believe it will go up, and the process of going up will grow attention. And I believe that Zhittya will be self-funding on the drug development side. The marketing companies are not involved in that risk activity. As I said, we've made the marketing companies so they're low risk, high reward. So if worse comes to worse, the marketing companies can just exist. They don't have to do anything until we get a drug approved. And we get a drug approved, they're worth billions of dollars in my mind.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Thank you for your, I think, clarification of all these. That's very important for the investors to understand.